Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
First and foremost, guys, welcome back to Breaking Barriers. Today we have with us Brendan, and I'm really excited to have you here, man. With AdaptX, I love Adapt, right? Adapting Social is my agency, so I got to play off that. But talk to us about what that is for people who are like, who the hell is Brendan, and what's AdaptX? Talk to us a little about that.
Yeah, so it's adjacent to my first company, which is Unified Health and Performance, which is a gym that I started about 8 years ago. I was running Special Olympics programs in our district and really was drawn to that. Thought I wanted to become a special education teacher, but about halfway through university decided I wanted to do something more physically active. So ended up trying to create a roadmap for an inclusive strength and conditioning facility where people with and without disabilities could kind of seamlessly coexist. Wasn't really a model at the time to follow, so kind of just had to learn on the fly. And then AdaptX kind of came about 4 years ago as an educational endeavor, helping other health and fitness professionals around the country create more accessible environments for people with disabilities. So those are kind of how the two go together. So one's a brick and mortar facility and one's a educational endeavor.
What sparked this for you? What made you really get passionate about this?
Yeah, high school, sophomore year, our district started a program called Unified Basketball. It's a kind of a Special Olympics program, and the basic premise was it was pairing a athlete with a disability with a partner without, and I was just immediately drawn to it. I had no prior exposure to disability before that. Maybe it was just for me, I felt like I was always receiving a lot more than I was giving. Maybe as like kind of an awkward teenager, I felt a lot more comfortable and confident taking on the roles within that organization, going from a volunteer to a coach to the program director. Special Olympics really changed my life drastically. And yeah, so that was kind of my first exposure. And now pretty much everything I've done over the last 15 years has revolved around inclusion in sports and fitness. So
that's really cool, man. So talk to us. So from a business perspective, what's been some of your biggest challenges?
Yeah, I think with the gym, marketing and demonstrating to the community, because when you say that you're an inclusive fitness center, inclusion means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. You don't automatically go to disability. So that's one thing. There's a lot of ambiguity in the terms that are used. Some people use adaptive athletes. Some people don't want to characterize people as disabled. Some people in the disabled community prefer to be called disabled. So there's a lot of kind of ambiguity in the terminology there. But marketing, because we have about 260 members, maybe about a fifth of which have disabilities, but then we're also training high school athletes, college athletes, general population adults. So when you're marketing to one population, you're kind of not communicating effectively to the other. So I guess being generalists in terms of different populations that you accommodate makes it hard to kind of have that client persona, customer persona that you're marketing to. So that's been tough, but like we've grown just through organic word of mouth. Now AdaptX is something that can be scaled a little more since it's a remote curriculum that we deliver. It is something that isn't really bound by the geographic location like the gym is. So we're kind of entering the stage where we are trying to invest money into paid marketing and see how many people the course can reach. So that's kind of the next stage. And I guess my business journey is learning how to navigate that landscape as well.
Yeah, man. Well, as a side note, obviously that's what I do in my agency life. So if you need support, yeah, I'm happy to help, obviously in any capacity. But we can talk about that offline. Cool. Now, what's something that's like the most proud, that you've? Is there a moment where you really felt like really proud of what you've done? Like, is there like I'm sure there's a couple, but like what's one that stands out the most to you?
Yeah, I don't know if it was really any one like acute moment. I guess, and maybe it's just the compliments that you get for working with people with disabilities has always been a little uncomfortable to me. You might showcase one of your clients doing something really impressive, and people's general default response is, "Wow, Brendan, that's so awesome that you're doing that." And I'm like, wait, I'm trying to showcase what this person's doing, not like what I'm doing. So it's a little bit, that's always been tough. So the compliments and the praise you get isn't really my sense of, or like my source of pride. I will say navigating the gym through COVID is something that I feel like we did pretty well, because so many gyms closed. So many gyms closed. I mean, we didn't pivot like as hard as some people to remote training, but we were doing the Zoom classes. In Massachusetts here, we were mandated to close a couple different times. And then when we reopened, we were only in like a 2,000 square foot facility, and the regulations were like, no one can be within 6 feet of each other. So we could only do like 4 or 5 people at a time, kind of in these like sanctioned off areas of the gym, which was just like obviously not the environment that you want. So getting through that, and I mean, I owe that as much to my clients as I do to myself, like them sticking with us, them doing classes outside. We had like a 5 a.m. outside class, and we had a floodlight over, and people are working out outside. It's just like, so it's just as much my community as it is my actual endeavors. But I think we were fortunate to move to a bigger facility about 1.5 years ago. So we bought a commercial building. So I guess in terms of like, maybe that's probably, I guess, from a business standpoint, what I would say I'm most proud of is just going from really not knowing what I was doing when I first opened my gym. And I had people that helped me navigate the kind of the purchase of the building and stuff. But I think that was definitely a challenge, and definitely something that was a little more stressful. But it was worth it, I think. So I know it is, but.
So let me ask you a question. So, and we work with a lot of gyms throughout the US and the UK. And so I always like to ask this question on podcasts, but this is more specific, obviously, because, gyms was one of the really big businesses around the world that took a big freaking hit during COVID. Knowing what you know now, if you go back to day one, 2020, when you got all this information of shutting down and not being able to have people in, would you have done anything differently?
Not really, because I think the gyms that there's commercial gyms sell access to equipment. We sell access to coaching, and you can still coach from afar. So even though that is far from the ideal situation, I was writing workouts for people to do in their basement. I was writing running plans for people to train through races. So it certainly wasn't easier. We're spending a lot of time trying to stay afloat, but like, when you have these, like, you could call it a micro gym, so a gym that doesn't have thousands of members, it's more like a community type of feel. You're more astutely aware of everyone's needs and everyone's goals. So it allowed me to like just text my members and say like, hey, what do you want to work on now? What's most important to you? And for some people, it was just staying somewhat active and getting through a pandemic that was completely jarring for people. So it's just like those relationships that I had with my clients, I think, was essential. And so I'm not sure I would necessarily do anything differently. We probably could have leaned into the remote offerings a little more and expanded our reach beyond our immediate community here. But at the end of the day, I'm glad we're back in person. That was just not a great time, but got through it okay.
Those difficult times help shape us into better entrepreneurs, better leaders. And it's hard in the moments when you're in the trenches. It's so difficult to observe an opportunity when you're in it, right? Because it's tough. It's designed to be difficult, but those moments really are what develop us to the best of our abilities. I'm a big boater, and I remember when I first started boating. Typically most people are terrified to crash, right? And to really crash into a boat, or when you're docking, crash into a dock. And I'll never forget, the guy who, first kind of gave me a few tips, who owned the marina, was my client. He said to me, he goes, a good captain never learned anything at the dock, right? You got to be out there. You got to be going through the hard shit. You got to go through through the bad storms. But do my Brendan, because obviously, going through COVID again, we had a lot of gyms that we worked with that had to pivot, had to do things like you guys did. And we had to change that from a marketing and branding perspective. We have some people who they weren't agile enough, and they did close their doors, or they had, bad circumstances happen because of COVID. And, so I give you a lot of, I commend you for being able to rise to the occasion, pivot, do what you have to do, be agile, and again, unified, right? It's on your shirt, but it's like, realistically being unified with your community that you have there and keeping strong is such an important thing. And it clearly shows your community's loyalty and your members' loyalty to you, that they didn't run away or leave when things got tough. So that's really cool. You know, I want to talk a little bit about legacy. So you are a parent, right? So you know, you're a father, and you know, being an entrepreneur, being a father is not easy. And you know, so what do you like? You know, if in 10 years from now, right, I was to go to one of your sons and say, you know, what's your father like? You know, what do you want them to say? What do you want that answer to be?
Yeah, I think over the last year and a half or whatever, I think my goals, I've worked a lot over the last 7 or 8 years, and I still work a fair amount, but now my goals have shifted to like time being my most valuable asset. And I know that's nothing that's probably new to you, but like just like chasing how much profitability my businesses can make just doesn't really appeal to me as much. So I want my kids to I want to be at their sports games. I want to make sure I can get home and have dinner with them, play with them. I go home, have lunch with my son every day. So like things like that have become more important to me. And I hope, since I'll be within their community, I hope their friends use the gym. I hope I hope they just realize that I'm trying to make our little town a little more inclusive and a little more kinder. So I guess maybe that's my legacy, that they know that I'm there for them. I care about them more than I care about my work. I know that's something that can kind of easily get conflated. So I guess I haven't really maybe thought about it from a legacy standpoint, more so just like what my specific goals are. And when I was writing out my 2024 stuff, it was more so making sure I could be heavily involved with the family than it was like hitting specific revenue benchmarks and stuff.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. And you know, I heard typically, especially our parents' generation, right? Like Gen Xers and Boomers, they typically have always had the mindset of like, listen, you know, go to work. And men specifically, right? The fathers specifically back in Boomer, you know, I would say Gen X definitely too, but like typically the fathers were not really involved as much as, you know, moms were, right? Like my dad was a construction worker. His dad was a construction worker, out early, home late, like, you know, not changing diapers, not there for bath time, not there for sports games and whatever. And, you know, there's a study right now that says that from our generation, so millennials, are you Gen Z or millennial?
I'm 30. I'm not even sure where the line of demarcation is between the generations.
So you'd be a millennial then. I am as well, right? So I'm 32. But so the gap between us and our fathers, you know, again, generationally speaking, we spend 40% more time with our children than our father did on average, right? So, you know, so when you think about that, like it's such an important thing for our generation to have more involvement, be at those games, as you mentioned, you know, be there. Like to me, I'm night shift Johnny, right? So like for me, when I get home from work and stuff, you know, Thursdays and Fridays, I try to work from home, you know, if I can. But, you know, in the off chance that I don't, no matter what, like dinner, you know, and, you know, bath time and spending time with him. And my mornings are all about, you know, my son and my wife, and obviously my 2 kids in the way. So, you know, it's such a priority for me that it's so interesting. I don't know. I say to my dad all the time, like, I don't know how, like you like didn't want to be as involved. And it's not even a thought to most of those people. Like I've interviewed a lot of people that are Gen Xers and even Boomers. And to them, it's like, it wasn't even on the radar. Like a man is supposed to be out there doing work, and a woman's supposed to be, you know, taking care of the kids. And that was the roles back then. And it's so different in the world we live in now that it's just so interesting. It wasn't even on their radar, right? Like they didn't even think about that. I feel guilty when I don't get to spend the time I want to spend with Johnny, my son, to the point where it's like, you know, it's crazy. But
it's tough because being an entrepreneur and working on several projects, like I am always aware of what needs to be done. I guess that's the hard thing about running businesses, is that like never really get the chance to shut off. And it's probably something that you're aware of. So it's been like, it's been a learning curve to like, when I get home, like work isn't on my mind. Like you mentioned, dinner, bath time, like those are things that I've been doing with our oldest for a while now. And it's like, that has to be the focus. And then once he goes to bed, if I need to get something done for an hour or two before I go to bed. But yeah, just kind of like carving out specific time blocks, I guess. And it's taught me to be more efficient with my time. I'm like, I need to get these things done because I want to get home. So if anything, it's definitely improved the operations over here.
That's good, man. What is so we have officially reached the point of every year. I'm pretty sure this is like the national day where people officially fall off of their goals. I mean, like health and fitness goals, right? So who better to have on the podcast? It's January 25th. So when this airs, this is January 25th. And this is on again, research shows that by this time, even the people who surpass the first 2 weeks, because typically it's like a big jump. People drop off the first 14 days in January after their health and fitness goals. And then the 25th to like Feb 1 is typically like the massive like jump off where people typically stop their fitness goals. They're back to eating like shit. They're back to drinking. They're back to not going to the gym or whatever. What do you want to say to those people listening right now that sign up at a gym somewhere around the country? You know, they started to eat healthy, they were going to the grocery stores, they're doing stuff, and now they're like, you know what? Life's too tough. I can't make it to the gym, or I can't eat the way I want to eat. What do you got to say to those people?
Yeah, I mean, I think and I'm not really like the rah-rah type of coach at our facility here either. So I definitely wouldn't say anything admonishing them for their attempts. I think and I mean, there's no shortage of data that says like, I don't know, whatever, 5% of people are going to stick to their resolutions. Yeah. So if like every person that set a New Year's resolution that was fitness related was discouraged from even trying, then that's 5% of however many people try that wouldn't even have that success. So anyone that wants to give it a try, that's great. But having a support staff, I think a lot of people, my gym doesn't have an influx of people at January 1st because we're kind of like sports performance facility, like higher touch, semi-private. I think a lot of people, when they try to pick up a fitness routine, they go to the lowest hanging fruit, which is a cheaper commercial gym. And it kind of lacks the support system that a gym like mine can provide. And when you don't have any guidance and you don't have anyone holding you accountable, it's a little harder to stay stuck to your goals. But like having an outcome beyond just lose 10 pounds, you got to break it up into smaller parts. And whether it's, okay, I'm going to hit 4 sessions a week, etc. Like for me right now, it's cold in Massachusetts. We're running the Boston Marathon in a few months. So it's like, I don't want to run. I didn't want to run 14 miles on Saturday when it was 0 degrees with the wind chill, but like having that goal on the horizon and having a tangible like action step that I had to take to get there, I think helps people. So maybe not shooting overly ambitious with goals, breaking it up into smaller pieces and actions that you can take on a weekly basis. But yeah, don't be afraid, I guess, to set goals. And I think a lot of people take an all or nothing mindset. Once they miss a couple of days, they're like, oh, I'm done. And it's just kind of getting back on the horse if you do fall off for a little bit. But
dude, well said, man. Well said. And I think that's such a good way to frame it. Because you know what, at the end of the day, people quit because they have elephant-sized goals and they don't realize the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time, right? So, that's why even for me, like year over year, during COVID, dude, I put on like almost 25, 30 pounds because I was sitting home. I was drinking. I was on the couch eating. Like I wasn't doing the normal things I did. I wasn't going to the gym or working out. And I found myself in a position where I'm 6'2". I'm normally at probably like 190, 195-ish, whatever. And then COVID happened and I was like 230. And I found myself saying like, damn. And I was so discouraged because I'm like, I never put this much weight on. And I also have a good metabolism, but COVID said goodbye metabolism. Mm-hmm. So, I found myself where I beat myself up because I wasn't working out every day anymore. And you hit the nail on the head. It's not about working out every single day, even for goals outside of fitness. It's not about doing it every single day. It's about starting, right? And so when I started to get back into a better routine and fasting and not eating like crap and whatever, like what really helped me was I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to try to get to the gym or work out only 3 times a week. I'm not going to say 5. Like everyone goes, I'm going to be here Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday. And it's like, just get there once a week first, and then eventually twice a week, and then eventually grow from that, right? You don't have to get so obsessive in the beginning because it is difficult. It is difficult to change that lifestyle and to add time where maybe you feel like you don't have time. So I think that was so well said, man. And that's what helped me. It was like, I'm going to start boxing and doing whatever 1 day a week, and then I was 2 days a week, and then I was 3, and then I incorporated tennis, and I incorporated this and that. And next thing you know, I'm working out 3 days a week. I'm happy, I'm healthy, and it doesn't feel like a job anymore. Like, because I enjoy doing it, I don't feel like I'm obligated anymore.
People wait for motivation, but action really precedes motivation. So like you said, if it's only once or twice a week, getting started, I think all the research on motivation says that it's not necessarily like something that comes to you. It's the product of making progress and taking action. So even if it's once or twice a week, getting in that habit. And that's why like people shouldn't be admonished for going to a Planet Fitness and walking on a treadmill. Like that might be people's barrier or that might be people's entry point into getting into fitness. And then when they feel more comfortable in their skin and comfortable in the gym, then they come to a place like mine where they can get pushed a little more, they can work with a trainer, et cetera. So I think people in my industry like bash all different forms of modalities and think one's superior to the other, but each one has its pros and cons, and you can learn from each. Why is Planet Fitness successful? It might not be my business model, but I should still attempt to learn from them. Doesn't mean I should just kind of write it off. So
yeah, success. Tony Robbins. So 2 things on that. Tony Robbins always says that success leaves like, a cookie trail or clues, right? So, again, Planet Fitness is doing something right in the category of like, hey, it's so cheap, I'm going to sign up. And if I don't go, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Where that's why they stack, like they're good at retainer stacking. But he also said, something along the lines of, when I was at one of his UPW events, he dove into, what you were just saying earlier, how, at the end of the day, people like goals and motivation is fleeting, right? And he sat there in this room with 12,000 people and he goes, guys, I want you to yell it loud, right? Power, blank is power. What's blank? And almost the whole room said knowledge, right? So back to you saying motivation, is fleeting, execution. He's like, no, knowledge is not power. Execution is power, right? And so at the end of the day, same thing. Like, it's like you have to just go do it, right? When I started Adapting Social, my first company, I started it when I was 17 years old in high school. My family has no financial literacy background. My mom's a stay-at-home mom, the oldest of 5. And I just went out there and I just kept trying shit. I kept doing different things, with my segment. And as I continue to grow and build and buy companies and do this and build Adapting and build this and build whatever, the one thing that it was execution that helped me do it. It wasn't, I want to become this guru at this. It's like, I think you become a guru by practitioner, so it's so important that, people listening into this understand, like, back to like the goals and health. And, this is the time of the year where everyone's falling off, you going out there and just doing it. You don't have to. And it's funny because I used to be this guy, Brendan, I don't know if you were ever this type of dude or not, but I was the guy, like, I had to go out and get a new pair of running shoes and new gym gear, and that would like motivate me, and I would buy it, and then I would go a couple times, and then I would fall off and whatever, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go get new gym gear again. It's gonna get me motivated. And it's like, the mindset is, it's not the gear, it's not anything else other than just get your ass into the gym at least 1 day a week, or whatever. And if you do that, typically you'll start to feel better, and you'll start to like see people, like, when you're in an atmosphere where people are all wanting to be better and they want to get healthier, you typically, it starts to rub off a little bit, because you're like, all right, see this guy, he's here, he's an older guy sweating his ass off, grinding. If he can get here, why can't I get here?
Yeah, they say the fastest or the best way to get faster as a runner is to run with faster people, and the best way to be better in your industry is to surround yourself with people that are better than you. You had mentioned about like the businesses and consulting and stuff. And I think when I was opening my gym 8 years ago, if I had told a consultant, like, and there weren't really any inclusive strength and conditioning facilities where people with and without disabilities coexisted. If I had mentioned that idea to someone, they would probably be like, oh yeah, why don't you just incorporate as a nonprofit and just work with people with disabilities in isolation? And I'm like, oh no, like that's not really my idea of inclusion. Like my model of inclusion is people with and without disabilities together. Like a lot of nonprofits, a lot of people, or a lot of businesses that serve individuals with disabilities are nonprofits, and for good reason. They get funding, and et cetera. But I've been trying to demonstrate that inclusion can be profitable. They're a very largely untapped market, people with disabilities I think people are afraid to kind of go into that inclusion world. But for us, it makes the career worthwhile. It makes your consumers passionate about your cause. If you think of like a Patagonia or a Bombas, and they've they've built consumers that care about their mission and their cause as much as the products that they're buying. And I think in some ways that's one of the reasons we got through COVID. People wanted to see our gym exist because they knew we were doing good for the community. So if you can build your business around a cause that benefits people, I think you're more likely to be successful. So.
Fuck yeah, man. I couldn't agree with that more. And, I want to again commend you for the work you're doing in that community with disabilities, not for the clout or like the praise of that, but, growing up in high school, like there was, it's freaking escaping my mind right now. I'm having a brain fart, but my buddy Pete and his mom, she worked with kids with special needs pretty much her whole career in the education system. And so they had a program for baseball where every year during baseball season, this program, it'll come back to me eventually, but I went to it probably like out of my high school career, I probably went to it like close to 15 or 20 times throughout my 4 years in high school. And the kids are great. The parents, love just, seeing their kids have fun, play some baseball, laugh, run around. And I remember there's no, Tony Robbins always says the secret to living is giving, right? And the one thing in those moments, like when I'm there, like playing with those kids and that type of stuff, I never, that's a high that I literally have the chills right now thinking about it, because I remember going home and just talking to my parents about it and stuff and how much I love doing it. And what's cool about what you're doing is you're building a home, right, for people to go and to also be included and to also have their own place to feel included, and an education on that. And I think that's so important, man. And so that's my commitment to you there, for that you build that platform for them to be able to do that stuff. I have my cousin, is autistic. And so I see her do different things, and now she's older, she's in her 20s now, and there's programs for her to go work and to go do things. And so you're a part of that world, right? So my hat's off to you for being able to provide places like my cousin Alicia, where she can go and have that platform to, go work out, and to be in an atmosphere where normally they wouldn't be, right? Yeah. So it's really cool that, that you're spearheading this community and building on education for it, man. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, there's stigmas associated with disability. And like you mentioned with baseball, you might not have been comfortable interacting with people with disabilities unless you guys shared that common interest in baseball. It's what recreation does. It's what hopefully our gym does. It just normalizes disability by showing that there's more similarities and differences. So I think more programs like that. It might have been like a Challenger baseball or a Miracle League. Those are two pretty common, adaptive baseball programs. But yeah, I think it's been an incredibly rewarding career. Very fortunate to have followed in it, and kind of, I guess, created a path in it. So
it's amazing, man. So wrap up here. Where can people engage with you, find you? Is where you plug yourself.
Yes. AdaptX.org is the website for our nonprofit. On Instagram, it's AdaptX.coach. Someone's got the AdaptX handle and they don't use it, but I can't get it.
Don't you hate that?
Yeah, 0 followers, 0 following. Just so AdaptX.coach on Instagram. And that's if anyone's interested in making their gym more inclusive or accessible, that's my ultimate mission. So whether you take the course or not, I'd love to help just kind of hash out some ways to do so. So yeah, those are our main things.
That's amazing, man. Well, Brendan, thank you so much, dude. Like I said, thank you for your impact that you're making in the health and fitness space, as well as obviously the disability space. Super grateful for you, man. And again, time is one asset we don't get back. So you spending it here with us today means the world to me. Guys, go give Brandon a check, check him out, go check out his platforms, go see what he's up to. And again, man, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.